Okay, so what is up guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I want to talk to you about the Godox SL150 Mark II, which is this light in front of me. It's basically a single source COB light that's going to be compatible with all your Bowens mount modifiers. So you can use like a reflector like what I have on there right now, you can use a snooth, you can use like a giant softbox like I have off to my left right now. And in this video I'm basically going to be making comparisons between this light and the original SL150W, which is the light that this light is basically replacing in the Godox lineup. And I will also make certain references to the Godox SL60, which I have right here. This was my first Godox light ever, and I will basically be making those comparisons in case of people who don't necessarily need a COB light that's this huge or this professional or this expensive. And at some other point in the video, I will make other references to the Godox VL150, which is currently shooting me right now. So the very first section of this video is going to be talking about the unboxing experience for this light. Now, it's a very straightforward unboxing experience. You basically get a giant white box that contains the light itself. It's going to contain the power cable as well, which is really long and doesn't have any brick attached to it because all the AC/DC conversion is being done inside of the body of this light, so you never have to actually worry about that. Aside that, you're going to get the reflector. It's a newly designed reflector that Godox basically just made. It basically helps to improve and increase the intensity of the light that this puts out for the SL150 Mark II as well as the new SL200 Mark II. Now I believe they also have the same reflectors on the VL150 and the VL200, VL300. Basically all their new COB lights with the quieter fans and the better designs have this same reflectors. They're really high quality stuff. Beyond that, you're going to get like a softener for the reflector. It's like a white thing, like a shower cap thing that you wear on the reflector to basically soften the light that's coming out of it. I am not sure why anybody would need that, but they give you that. And you also get a remote control. Now I should point out that this remote control is different from the remote control that comes with the original 60W, 150W. It's like a different frequency, and I believe this one is going to work with the new SL Mark II series as well as the FV series, but I have not been able to get it to work with my Godox SL60W, and I don't think it's going to work with the 150W original one because they're different frequencies even if you have them on the correct channel and the correct groups. With this remote control you can actually have a bunch of these lights, or the new SL Mark II series basically, and control them separately or together, whatever you prefer. All you have to do basically is, you know, change the channel for each individual light and know what channels and groups you basically set those lights to, and you can control them from one remote control. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the video. Now, speaking about the body and the build of this light, this is where things actually change a lot. Now, one of the things that people complained about the most with the last SLW series was the fact that it felt very plasticky, it felt very cheap, and it felt like it could break easily if you dropped it a few times and you abused it a bit too much. And they've basically gone ahead and fixed all those worries with this new light. Basically, instead of the design that has the plastic on the bottom like so, they have basically gone ahead to put like a metal, is it holder, I would call this? It's like a neck, right, basically, and on top of that neck you basically get the light attached with this rubber gasket, which you can very easily adjust without any issues. So unlike the previous SLW series, this one is going to give you more precise dial-ins for the direction that you want your light to go, or how you want to bend or twist or turn your light, whatever the case may be. This is also very excellent for mounting the light upside down. This is going to be more versatile as opposed to, you know, the rubber thing that you had to keep tightening and you could very easily break. Well, not very easily, but you could break it if you tried really hard. Now, this construction is almost fully metal, so you have like a metal neck that basically goes to like your light stand. You're going to have a fully metal body, and the only parts of this that I believe are still plastic are going to be the rubber handle on the back, but it's not the same kind of plastic that you see on the original SLW series. This is a slightly thicker type of plastic, so you don't really have to worry about durability for the plastic sections of this light. Speaking a little bit about the design, like I said in the build quality section of this, the design is a little bit more functional than it was before. Now, the design on this is going to give you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to adjusting your light. It's a little more sturdy and it's going to stand the test of time. I like the fact that everything is nicely shaped and nicely put. And also, I also like the fact that they basically changed the way that you eject your Bowens mount attachment that you have on the light. Basically, on the old SL series, they had this metal thing here. I have mine covered right now, so I'll show you. They had this type of, I don't know what to call it. And then they had this metal thing here that you had to pull back, and you could actually very easily hurt yourself when you were trying to, you know, use those lights. But now they've basically changed that around and made it look better. With this new design, it's a lot easier to just quickly remove whatever you want to remove that's mounted onto this light without damaging anything or hurting yourself. I really like that. I also like the new exhaust design and the new fan and everything with this. I think the fan, in fact, is probably the main or the major change that came to this light. It's significantly quieter, because I remember that the original SLW series were very notorious for the fan noise and how loud they were. So I'm basically just going to attach like a fan noise comparison test so that you can hear what this light actually sounds like. In fact, I believe this light is slightly quieter than the VL150 because the frequency of the noise, or the frequency of the white noise, is just slightly different, so it's pitched down, and in the grand scheme of things it's going to appear to be less noisy. So if you're looking for a 150 watt COB light, this is probably the quietest one that you can find out there right now, especially for the money. Now, I spoke a little bit about the remote control at the beginning of this. Now, this remote control can basically control a bunch of these lights if you put them on different groups and different channels, which is straightforward. But on the back of the device itself, you actually get full controls. I'll show you. So on the back of this device, you basically get the knob for turning the percentage or the intensity of the light. You can go all the way down to 0% or 1% with this one, unlike you couldn't do that with the original SL60 series and the SL150W. You had to stop at around 10%, I believe. So yeah, it's really nice that you have more control over you know, the percentage or the intensity of the light that you actually use with this new light. So speaking about the buttons for this, on the back of the device, you basically get the knob for changing the effects and groups and channels and whatnot. You get the intensity knob that basically helps you dial it from 0 to 100%. You get an FX button, and this is where, you know, we talk about the light having 8 different baked-in effects. So you have things like lightning, SOS, like a TV effect and so on. Personally, I would never use this because they just don't slot into what I do, but for people who actually might need them, there's 8 baked-in effects that might be very useful for you. You get a group button and a channel button, and I believe this has 16 groups and 32 channels baked into it, so that gives you a lot, and I mean a lot of leeway when it comes to programming a bunch of these lights to use like on a stage or for like your full video movie productions or whatever. You don't have to mix up your lights, and there's a lot that you can do with programming this light pretty much. Now, speaking about the less interesting things with this build and this design, this light itself weighs about 10 pounds. I mean, just a little under 10 pounds. And it's not the lightest COB light, but of course it's not supposed to be because it's such an heavy duty piece of equipment, and it actually feels like it, you know, it feels really nice. Now, speaking a little bit more about the fan noise, I was talking about the buttons on the back of this device just now. There is actually a fan off button now. Now, they included this fan off button basically to give you a fanless operation for this light. So you can use this light completely fanless. Yes, the intensity of the light that you're able to get out of this is going to be less, but if you wanted to operate it completely fanless, you can absolutely do that. Now, of course, if you turn the fan back on, the intensity of the light is a lot more. As you can see, it increases. It's still on the exact same 10%, but when I turn off the fan, the intensity drops, and when I turn it back on, it increases. And if you're wondering why it seems as though my light over here is not putting out a lot of light, or it's not, you know, overexposing the shadow end of my face, it's because I actually have this grid on the thing right now. I basically put the grid there because I didn't want the light to spill everywhere and basically ruin my setup for this video. I will probably be taking that off immediately after I'm done with this video, and I'm just going to put this back on a softbox or something. Now, of course, again, with the fan off and fan on button, you get different intensities for the light that this, you know, COB light is putting out, and it basically has 2 different scales for, you know, the light that it puts out. So you get a completely different scale for the fan on, and you get a completely different scale when the fan is off. It would have been nice if it was the exact same scale so that you could know basically what you're getting, but there's really no way to tell that. Now, speaking about the actual brightness that this light puts out, you get around 58,000 lux at 1 meter away. So that is plenty bright for those who don't know what that is. In fact, I hardly see any situations where you would be using this light for more than 50% of, you know, the brightness. And if you did, you're probably going to be using this outdoors and trying to fight against something like the sun or something, which would explain why you would ever need to use a light like this at 100%. It is very, very bright. In fact, it's too bright for my personal needs. The SL60W is plenty enough for my personal needs, making talking head videos like this. But of course, we all know that the W series had the fan noise issues, even though it's never really been much of an issue for me. But with the 60 watt, I'm not even using it at 100% for talking head videos like this anyway, so there's that to consider. Now, this light is going to give you a CRI of 96 and a TLCI of 97. Basically, most of this is going to be about color accuracy because this is mostly daylight balance. It's 5600K, and personally, I don't care much for these numbers. As long as it's color accurate enough that it doesn't give my video a blue tint or a magenta tint, I am absolutely fine. But if you want to see more professional reviews where people actually take out light meters and measure the CRIs and the TLCIs and all the color differences, you can go watch another video. In this video, that's not what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be telling you about this light and how it functions for me. So referencing the SL150 Mark II against something like the VL150, which is currently shooting me right now, they were released at about the same time. I believe the VL150 200 and 300 series came out a month or two just before the SL150 Mark II was introduced. And for whatever reason, we thought the VL150 was like the creme de la creme of this light series, but they actually still went back and came out with this one, which has a quieter fan. I'm not sure how they pulled that off, but it's really interesting to see. So referencing this against the VL150, for example, what I would say is that the real difference, or the major difference between this and that, is that that one is a little or a lot more modular, in the sense that you can actually battery power that with V-mount batteries, while you cannot battery power this. With this one, you have to use a wall plug, or you have to use like a mini generator set that you can buy off of Amazon for like $200, $300. If you don't want extra things to carry around, you probably shouldn't buy this one. You could just buy, you know, the VL150 that lets you use the battery or the V-mount batteries in case you're somebody who likes to move around a lot and you shoot in situations where electricity might be a problem. Now, one thing to note though is if you are somebody who likes to carry your light around onto shoots and stuff like that, this is probably not the light that you should buy, because this one does not come with a carrying bag or anything like that. It's basically just a light in a box with the styrofoam and stuff like that. So you're not going to have a bag, except you already have one, of course. You're not going to have a carry around case or carry around pouch or anything like that. With the VL150, however, you get a really, really nice bag that you can use to carry your light around. So I feel like that is targeted more towards professionals who have a lot of shoots on sets and stuff every day, who are constantly moving around. This one, I think, is designed more towards people who shoot indoors and don't have to move their light around a lot or break it down a lot. The VL150, on the other hand, is a lot more modular and a lot more, you know, breakdownable and pack upable, and it's slightly smaller than this one and just a little bit lighter, in fact. So if you're looking for something a little more professional, something that's going to take batteries that you can use on the go and easily carry around, the VL150 is around $60-$70 more expensive than this one, but that's probably the light that you want. Now, the SL150 Mark II is not the only one in the rebooted SL60 series. There's also the SL200 Mark II, which looks pretty much identical but puts out 200 watts, and it's also slightly brighter than this one, and I honestly wouldn't see why I would need that one, since this one is already too bright for my needs. But again, there's another reason why this can come in very, very handy. See, for example, for somebody like me, I tend to shoot a lot of slow motion for my B-roll when I'm doing product reviews, especially for earbuds and headphones and stuff like that. When I use the SL60, for example, it's a little, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not bright enough. Basically, the moment that you switch shutter speeds over to like 1/120th of a second or 1/250th of a second, it's just too dark, and you know, your footage starts to introduce a lot of noise and a lot of grain, and it just doesn't look very good. But with the SL150 Mark II, I know that I can basically just crank up the intensity for this light to like 80% or 100% if need be, honestly, and I can actually still shoot in slow motion without the scene getting too dark, or you know, everything just introducing too much noise into my footage and basically just making it difficult to work with in post, if that makes sense. I will show you some examples of when I shot with the SL60 exclusively and my footage was really grainy, as opposed to shooting with the SL150 Mark II, which basically gives me a lot more, in fact more than twice the amount of light output, and I can actually shoot at high shutter speeds without introducing noise into my footage. So ultimately, what is my final thoughts and verdict about this light? Well, this light is an absolute steal for $335 right now, I believe. After tax, you're probably going to be paying closer to $369, but it's still a really fair price when you consider what this light offers you. It's fantastic, it's unbelievable almost, and I would absolutely recommend it. In fact, this is probably one of the easiest lights to recommend. Well, if you're not a full-time professional who needs to carry your light around and you need battery power, this is very easy to recommend. But if you do, you should spend the extra $70 and pick up the VL150 instead. That is pretty much all my thoughts about the SL150 Mark II. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on another video that was shot by Kagan. Peace. The God of gods.